In this video, we are going to talk about SOQL, which is Salesforce Object Query Language. Similar to SQL, SOQL is used to fetch the data from database tables. Before we proceed further and try to understand the syntax of SOQL, it is important for us to understand the database terminologies in Salesforce. As you can see on the screen, on the left hand side we have the database system concepts, and on the right hand side we have its mapping with the Salesforce terminologies. Tables are called as objects in Salesforce. Table columns are referred to as fields in Salesforce, and table rows are considered as records in Salesforce. I hope you got the concept now. Let's proceed further and try to understand the basic query syntax for SOQL. The SOQL syntax starts with the keyword select, which is followed by the comma separated list of fields API names. Now, what is an API name? API name is a unique identifier in Salesforce which is assigned to every metadata that we create. So whenever we create an object or whenever we create a field in Salesforce, we need to assign a unique API name to that field or that custom object. That API name we need to specify here. The next keyword that we need to append is from, which should be followed by the API name of the object. Now, if you look at the semantics of this query, what it means is that select these many fields from this object, or give me these many fields from this object. Now let's go ahead and try to understand how to execute these SOQL queries in Salesforce. The first way is to use the developer console query editor, and the other way is to write that SOQL query in Apex Code. The second approach is an interesting concept here if you are a beginner for Salesforce. Unlike the other development platforms like .NET, Java or Node.js, database in Salesforce is tightly connected with tightly coupled with the Apex Code. So unlike those other technologies, in Salesforce you don't need to write database connector, don't need to write mapping for database table to Apex, right? So what you need to do is that just embed the SOQL query in a statement, and whenever you will execute that Apex code, the query will also get executed, and all the background work which is about connecting to the database, finding the correct table, fetching the data from the table and then mapping it into the code, all that logic happens in the background. All this process happens in the background and you don't need to do anything about it. Now let's try both of these approaches in Salesforce. For these we will be using developer console. Once you go to the developer console, you need to click on the tab query editor, where you need to type your SOQL query. Once you are done typing your query, you need to click on the execute button on the bottom left of the screen. Once the query is successfully executed, in the canvas you can see the results. At the top you can see the query that was executed, and in the middle you will see all the columns that you had requested for. Now let's try executing the same query through an Apex code. For this we need to create a new class. In that class we will need to write a static method. And in that method we will be writing this query. Now we will use the execute anonymous window to call the method that we have written and process the response that it returns. The data that we will receive from the method call will be cached in the variable LST accounts. This will be a list. Using the for loop, we will iterate over all the objects that we will receive as a response. We will use the system.debug method call to print the result in the Apex logs. Once we have verified the contents, we will click on the execute button. After the code is successfully executed, Apex logs will be generated. These logs can be accessed through the Logs tab. On this Apex log, we will apply the debug only filter to see the response that we received from the method. In the logs, we can see all the fields that we had requested. We can also be double sure by checking the count of the debug statements. It should be matching to the count that we had received when we executed the query in the query editor.
If you like this video, please do like and share. If you want to receive more of such informative content, please hit the subscribe button. If you want us to make content related to any Salesforce or Salesforce related topic, please do let us know through comments.